Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, the SNP hasn't published its export figures for the SNP government hasn't published the export figures for Scotland for a couple of years now. The whole of the internal trade, who goes what, who goes where, what's being bought, is it going into the EU, rest of the world, whatever. All these figures, very important, because if Scotland wants to get its independence, which it will never have, it needs to understand where it's trading, who's its biggest trading partners, where's its supply line, that sort of thing. And they have been very, very shady about publishing this of late because the facts don't aid the cause of independence. So with the SNP doing what the SNP do, when the facts are inconvenient, they either change the facts, lie, or cover them up. And in this case, they've just simply not published them, a form of cover-up. If they don't publish the figures, there are no figures and they can't be held to account. Seems to be the usual gameplay for the SNP. But that won't stand because they have now been published and they make rather uncomfortable reading, especially if you happen to be a Nat who wants a closed border and to reduce the trade with the rest of the UK as you push forward to joining the EU. Let's have a look and see why they're going to get it wrong all over again and why it's wise to remain in the Union. Here goes. Right, so we'll have a look at these figures, but as I say, they're uncomfortable reading for the SNP. Now, I did touch on this the other day, and I was talking about where the raw materials and the trade was coming from, but that was based basically on speculation because we were awaiting the release of these figures, which haven't been released for a few years. But they have now been released, and so we've got accurate figures. My dog, if you can hear him in the background, he's obviously excited about hearing them as well. Or possibly somebody's walked past the house. You make your own choice on that one. Anyway, the importance of UK internal market is laid bare as half of Scottish firms enjoy union boost. The SNP has not published export figures since 2021 because they're ashamed of them. It's a bit like the education table. They don't publish them if they can possibly avoid it. But this latest data on purchases south of the border highlights the strong UK link, say unionists. There's Pamela Nash. We've seen her a few times. She's starting to make a bit of a name for herself, being very strong in the union forum. Businesses in Scotland buy more products from those in the UK than any other region in the UK. We've seen that. We mentioned that the other day. So that's not news to us, but it is nice to see it there. It is already widely known that Scotland and the UK are major trade partners. Well, that's a bit odd. I think they mean Scotland and rest of UK are major trade partners because of the internal market that we have and the free market within the four nations. But according to a government study, 49.3% of Scottish firms purchase goods or services from suppliers in England, Wales and Northern Ireland in the last year. That compares to 21.2 businesses in England buying from the intra-UK market and 45.1 from Wales. Scotland and Union have warned that the SNP will jeopardise this valuable link with their Skexit plans and say the Nats consistently ignore the importance of the UK market with their independence papers. Now, they keep pushing within these papers that the EU will be their big saviour. So they leave the UK. They can't then trade freely with the UK, the rest of the UK, but they can't trade freely with the EU because they're not in it. And so for maybe 10, 15, 20 years, maybe never, if the Spanish get a cob on, they'll be outside of any trading bloc. They'll have to have their own currency, which will float downwards as, like a brick against the pound. They'll have zero credit rating to begin with. They'll have to go and try and get some kind of credit rating on the international markets. They have literally no idea what they're doing. And the reason I'm bringing this up, it doesn't matter. It really, as we know, it is totally unimportant, all this, because it's never going to happen. Scotland will never leave the Union because there aren't enough stupid people in Scotland who think it's going to work, because everyone with half a brain knows it won't. So they'll just vote for the Union. Even if they don't even want to be in the Union, don't like the Union. They're not stupid enough to leave it because they know which side of their bread is buttered. And it's definitely on the Union side. Anyway, The Office for National Statistics Business Insights and Conditions Survey was published ahead of the Scottish Government's plan to publish export figures after calls to end the delay, and that was the one we looked at the other day. Anyway, we'll go through this because it's just a very quick piece. But anyway, it says we already know the firms here sell more products to England, Wales, and Northern Ireland than they do anywhere else in the world, and that includes the EU. The internal market from Scotland to the rest of the UK is bigger than the rest of the world, including the EU. Not just bigger than any other country, individual country, but bigger than the rest of the world combined, including the EU. That is how important the rest of the UK is in terms of trade for Scotland. And the unionists know it. Even independents know it, but therefore won't actually, although wanting to be independent, won't vote for independence, which is why, of course, 60% of SNP supporters won't vote independence. They don't want full independence. And when you have that kind of figure on a push, when it comes to push or shove, they're not going to vote to leave because everything depends on it. Everything. The entire economy. Literally every aspect of life in Scotland depends in a kind of systemic way on being inside the tent, pissing out. And that tent, of course, is the United Kingdom. Anyway, they're saying the SNP's reckless plan to throw up barriers and impose borders would jeopardise all this. The Nationalists don't care that half of Scottish businesses would then have increased obstacles when it comes to buying things they need to operate. Well, yeah. I mean, you're going to have a trade barrier at the border. Plus, you have all the extra tariffs and all the paperwork. And the bureaucracy alone will slow everything down. It will destroy it. The research shows just 30.9% of businesses in Scotland did not purchase goods from the rest of the UK, while a further 19.7% were unsure. Finished goods accounted for most items bought, 47% of the total. And, and it just goes on. And it's just that after that after that. There are so many things, the goods, the services, the raw materials, the finished goods. The thing is, of course, you may sit there and go, oh, well, we don't buy anything from the UK. We buy all our products from a Scottish company over there. But that Scottish company might buy stuff from the rest of the UK. You don't know. And ultimately, eventually, even the stuff that they don't buy from the UK will probably have travelled through the UK because it'll come in off the continent through Dover and up the M6. So I mean, the rest of the UK is quite important to them, one way or another. But there you go. That's what happens when you get these idiots who sit there and say, oh, we can be independent, we can be independent. Oh, look at us, we're brilliant. No, you're not, you morons. You're absolute fools. There isn't a brain cell amongst the lot of you. Anyway, so stop there, come up and we'll finish because it is just a quick one. Just wanted to get that out and, just cover what we'd covered in the past. And now that the figures are out and you've got the hard numbers. God, they are stupid though, aren't they? Coming up. There you go. If you are an SNP supporter, and you can support the SNP if you like, but you have to think about independence as a separate issue for your support from the SNP. Do you really, truly want to be independent? Does your job depend on it? Does your lifestyle depend on it? Does your family and your home depend on being part of the union? And if the answer to any of them questions is yes, then you'd be a fool to leave it. Life outside the union will be nasty, brutish, and short. Thank you very much for listening. I'll move on to the next video. We've got an absolute rake of stories to do today. So be quite a few. I'll keep an eye out because there's going to be movement on a lot of different stories as well. So I'll try and do the ones that I've planned to do, but they may be interrupted with others, but we'll keep it as it goes. Anyway, till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Goodbye.